Hello, everyone. Welcome back to AC Today Reports. This is our special edition of AC Today Reports. We are featuring our youth on Saturdays at 3 o'clock. And you've enjoyed another wonderful youth panel in the first week. And then we had the arts on the second week. And Pastor John, we're back for our next panel discussion with our youth panel. You're excited for the discussion today. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. They were great the first time around, right before we did our showcase, and I think they're going to be great again. I can't wait to actually hear what they have to say concerning this thought process dealing with COVID. I just can't wait to hear what they have to say. They're a great bunch of kids.
Yeah, and I've been saying it over and over. We've been talking to adults all since COVID started, hearing how they're feeling about it. And we wanted to give our youth a platform to be able to talk candidly with how this is really impacting them personally. And so we thank you all for tuning in. We're of course going to encourage you to share so other young people can hear what they have to say, relate to some of the things that they will be sharing, as well as ask them questions. We're going to have some time for Q&A where the young people can interact with each other. That's very important. But the key is, let's give our youth this platform to talk, and let's listen to hear what they have to say. Are you guys ready for another great discussion?
Hey, come on, let's go with it. Let's bring them on.
All right, and we'll be back at the end with announcements, but for now we're going to bring in our panel. So give us a brief moment so we can invite them in.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. We are so excited for our second youth panel discussion. Last time, as was announced just recently, we talked about the one epidemic of racism and how we relate to the Black Lives Matter movement and what our thoughts are. We think we had a very riveting discussion then, and now we'd like to turn our attention to a second epidemic, that being COVID-19. And I don't think we've had an opportunity as young people, particularly in the church, to really give our voices as to what we think about it, how it's affecting us personally, and what it looks like in our daily lives. And so we have a great panel again that's assembled, that's going to share their thoughts, share their feelings, and we want to get right into it. So the first thing I want us to do is for just each one to go around and share their name, again, where their church is or where they're coming from, and maybe what school they're attending or what occupation they're involved in now. I can start. My name is Mpilo Norris. I'm coming from Baltimore, Maryland. I attend the Liberty Seventh-day Adventist Church. 20 years old, and I'm a sophomore in Yale University studying biomedical engineering in Connecticut. And I'll be moderating the discussion for today. So, Jermaine, let's go with you.
Hello, my name is Jermaine Ferguson. I'm studying social work at Oakwood University. I'm 21, and I currently attend the Sharon Temple Seventh-day Adventist Church in Delaware.
My name is Giovanni Smith Boyce. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and I attend Epsom Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I'm enlisting in the Army.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jake. I am from the Community SDA Church in Englewood, New Jersey. I study biomedical sciences at Royal Holloway University in London.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren. I'm 15. I'm from New Jersey. I go to Community Seventh-day Adventist Church as well. I'm currently in high school, so I'm not in college yet.
Awesome. So now that we're getting into the fall and we're thinking about this next school year, I'm really interested as to what the COVID-19 situation looks like in the different areas where you guys are involved in. So I think one of the great things about this panel is we have people from literally around the world or in global spaces. So, Jake, how about we start with you, since you're going to be attending a school outside of the United States? What is the COVID-19 situation looking like in the UK? And how is that going to affect how you're going to start the school year? Are you going to be in an online format, a hybrid format? What does it look for you as an American who will be traveling abroad?
So I live in London, and the pandemic started a lot earlier than it did. So it was a lot more serious in the UK earlier on than it was in the US. Like from February, we took it really seriously, like school. they started canceling classes and whatever, and they ended all school by the end of March. When I go back, I mean, the UK is in a lot better situation. Like deaths and hospital cases are going down. But when I go back, it's going to be a mixture of in class and online lectures and classes and stuff like that. But yeah.
So they will be allowing you to return back to campus.
Yeah. Everyone's going to be able to go back to school, but we're going to be practicing like social distancing, and you have to wear your masks and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just curious, coming from the United States where it's been such a huge problem, particularly in the last couple of months, how do they plan to control for that? Or people from other countries where the situation might be a lot worse, are there going to be increased testing? How do they plan to deal with that?
So in the UK, since they like earlier on in the pandemic, like they were focusing more on testing. So now they're in a much better position than the US did because the US didn't do testing and shut down as early as the UK did. So they're in a better position. So when I go back, I'll have to like quarantine straight away as I come in. I'm gonna have to quarantine for 14 days in my house or whatever. And when you go places, you have to social distance just like everywhere else. But like you can go to barber shops, you can go to the movie theater, and you can go like a lot of other places. So I mean, there's UK still in like we're still in the pandemic, but like they're in a better position than like most of the other countries.
Awesome. Really interesting. Jimmy, I want to go to you because I believe your school has actually opened up, but you've elected to stay off campus. Can you just explain a little bit about your situation and why you chose to do how you're going to do?
Yeah, I'm at Oakwood University, like I said, and what the school has decided to do is offer some classes all online, which is just they call it just online, I guess, and then hybrid, which is they're offering some online and partially in person, and then high flex, which is like it's to the teacher's discretion, I guess. So that's what we're doing, and I've opted to stay home because I'm not trying to be in contact with people at all. I think that we should, in my personal opinion, not have opened so quickly. We should have given, especially since the US was very ill prepared in the first place. I think that opening with like a few months after we don't really know much about it. I think that it was a little rushed and I wasn't gonna be putting myself at risk like that. So I'm taking my classes online. And so far it's been good. I've been able to manage my time. It's been a lot more flexible, which I've enjoyed. I've been able to work and still take classes and be here with my family.
Very interesting. So I want to get back to something that you said later on in discussion, particularly your thoughts on how the country has been handling the coronavirus. But before we do that, let's hear from Giovanni and Lauren as to what their school situations are looking like. Or Giovanni is actually an interesting case because he's not going to school, be attending the army. So we want to hear what that's going to look like.
So for me, I had to quarantine 14 days prior to going to MEPS to get my physical and for them to decide what my MOS is going to be in the army. So I have to self-quarantine for that, and then after I get my MOS, I have to basically quarantine until it's time for me to ship off.
And where will you be going?
I don't know this yet. Like, so it's different military bases. So once I get my MOS, which is basically the job that I'm going to be doing, I then get told which base I'm going to be at, which could be anywhere across the country.
Okay, awesome. And Lauren, what does it look like in the high school system?
From my high school, it's very different compared to a bunch of the high schools around me. But my school is starting off fully remote until October. I'm anticipating they're gonna probably push back the date a little bit more once we get there. But they're using the extra time to build better plans, take a little extra precautions so that the students are totally safe when we get back.
Excellent. So another thing that I want to know is how has been the adaptability on the part of you all when the coronavirus started and then it started shutting down schools and other institutions of learning. I think for most of us, we had to leave school maybe mid-March, at the most April. And so how has the transition look like? And how have you been able to adapt to these new ways of learning? Have they been helpful? Have there been any benefits to doing it in the different ways? What are the different ways? So, Giovanni, I want to start with you because I know this was your senior year that you just graduated from. So, how was it transitioning during your senior year, and what are some of the things that you've missed? What are some of the things that you've gained from this, if any?
So for me personally, it was pretty difficult to handle my senior year online because like it went from me being able to associate with my classmates and to get to like spend time with them and to make memories with them to me having to be in my house online doing the lessons online to just be sitting there in my house. So it was pretty difficult for me because I'm normally a social person. I like to talk to people. So sitting online just online by myself, it was just nerve wracking.
I can imagine. And were there any ways at all that you were able to come up with some creative way to make those memories happen, even in a virtual space, or maybe not?
Um, it we kind of did like we'd be on the game and we'd just make jokes here and there, but like it's not the same as being in person with my friends.
Right. I can imagine. Um, Jake, what about you? Coming from London and having to return immediately to the United States, now you're in a different time zone. How did that work out for you?
Yeah, so they canceled school mid-March, and the moment I knew that they canceled school, like straight away, I booked my ticket to the US because I thought the US was going to be able to handle the situation better, but they didn't. So, but I still went to the US anyway, and now I'm with my family. I feel like a lot safer here because I'm just in my house and I'm with my family. So if I was in the UK, I would be living by myself, etc. But I'm here. When it comes to school, when they canceled school, we didn't have any classes for the rest of the year anyway. So I didn't really miss out on any classes, to be honest. But we did all of our exams and tests online, and that was really it. I didn't really miss that much of school, but the transition for me, it was okay. It was good for me because I got to spend more time with my family.
Hmm, very good. Lauren?
So my school actually closed like the first couple of days of March. It was like one of the first schools in my county to close down, but they really did a good job switching to remote. Like a lot of our classes, I mean, in school, we usually are working on technology most of the time. So it was just the setting that was changing. We are just going to be home doing the same exact thing we do in school. So the switch wasn't that bad. We still did miss out on a lot of end of the year activities, like fun day, things like prom and stuff like that. But it had to be done. So a lot of the kids in my school were understanding about it.
Right. How about you, Jermaine?
Um, the transition was interesting. We went online pretty late because we had heard about all the other schools around us closing down, and the students were like, "What's going on? Like, why are we still in class when like we're hearing about this disease that's ravaging the world type thing?" And so eventually, when we did close down, we were glad that we had finally closed down, but it was also very abrupt. Even though we knew what was happening, especially for the seniors, they were just, I mean, they couldn't have their end of year transition that you have, especially at Oakwood. It's a huge thing. You're graduating from college, it's a huge thing anywhere. But it was just a strange time, very rushed and odd. But I mean, the transition for me was okay. It's similar to Jake because I was coming home to my family, so it was cool. But yeah, it was a strange time, and it's a strange time.
Yeah. I want to jump on a little bit of what you were saying as it relates to family and then Jake as well. I think a lot of people can attest to the fact that even though a lot of our plans have been derailed, right, it's provided some opportunities for new relationships to maybe grow or even start afresh. And so, have any of you seen that being home? Have you been able to build better connections with family? Have situations maybe worsened because you're in tighter spaces with people that you're not normally with for longer periods of time? Maybe friends in the area that you're not able to connect with because you're always away. Have those relationships formed? In essence, have there been any social benefit that have come from the abrupt changes, or has it all been a very negative experience? Lauren, let's start with you.
So my school is a county school, which means that a lot of the students there are from a whole bunch of different towns, like over 75 towns.
Mhm.
And, I have friends from a lot of other places and they don't necessarily live close to me. So switching was kind of hard because I couldn't see them, like in the social aspect. I couldn't see them. They didn't live close to me. I couldn't like hang out with them. So that was a little bit upsetting for me. I still got to chat with them over video and everything, but it was kind of upsetting that I couldn't be in person with my friends. But as far as academically on school, everything was fine.
Awesome. Giovanni?
All my connections and my relationships with my friends were pretty good. Like we just all just happened to talk to each other, make sure that everyone was okay. As far as it goes with family, I feel like we've gotten closer because I've been around them more. So like I learned more and more about them as me being here more.
Hmm. Jake or Jermaine?
Yeah, so for me, the most I've been in the UK, well, basically for school since I was 14, since I was like 20, since 2015. And the most I've stayed like at home in America has been around 2.5 months. And I left the UK in March and it's now September. I would have been here for around 6 months by the time I leave. So the pandemic has kind of been a blessing for my family because this is the most time I've spent with my family, like together, like 6 months since I left when I was like 14. So it was a blessing for my family. When it comes to my friends, yeah, I speak to my friends all the time, FaceTime and all that stuff. So it's been the pandemic has been kind of a good thing for me. So yeah.
Hmm.
And I would say for myself, it's been similar to Jake. I haven't been home for this long for a while, not since 2015, but 2017. And I've always been kind of out and used to being on my own and just kind of figuring things out by myself. But this has kind of been humbling and grounding in a way. So I've been able to like really spend that foundational time that I need to, especially in this point in my life with my family, my brothers, getting to actually know them beyond just being my siblings, being like people, like cool individuals that I can actually sit down and talk to, like friends. So that's been cool. Getting to know my parents in a different way because your parents when you're like 12 are not the same when you're 21. It's completely different.
Right.
So that's been cool. With my friends, it hasn't really been a drastic, dramatic thing because I've been away from them for a long time before anyway when I went to go study in France. So that wasn't really difficult. Um, and academically, it wasn't too difficult either because I took my summer classes online, so that was like a good way to get into like taking my semester classes. And I'm pretty good at like managing my time and being organized, so that part of it was pretty good.
Hmm. Very good. I want to switch gears just a little bit and touch on a subject that may be very touchy. And please feel free to share to the extent that you're able and comfortable. But given the nature of the coronavirus, it is a very deadly disease. And I know personally, people that I know and love have been touched by the virus. Some have passed away. And I'm curious if any of you have been touched personally by the coronavirus in a similar fashion and how you've been dealing with that. Maybe a family member or a friend. Have any of you experienced someone who's had the virus or maybe someone who's passed away? And how have you and how are you continuing to deal with that? I'll open up to anyone, whoever wants to start.
So me personally, I haven't had anyone close to me or a friend of mine have it or contract it, but I've had like people that they know contracted. So like to me, it's not as serious as it would be for someone else. Like I still see it as like a disease that's like deadly and like we should be wary of it. But like to me personally, I don't have like a fear of catching it or like I'm really like cautious about catching it. Me personally.
Right.
For me, I did have a friend who I hadn't. She actually reached out to me after like a while, and we were just talking about life and stuff. And then she like threw in the conversation. She was like, "Oh, I caught COVID," and I was like, "What?" Like it was kind of like how you just gonna toss it in the conversation like that. But it was when I read it, it made me feel like I sat up in my bed and I was like, so I was kind of alarmed, but I also felt kind of helpless and like, because I'm not near her. She's in Brazil, I think. She's far away. Like, I can't do anything. How am I supposed to really respond other than maybe call her, text her, and be like, I'm praying for you? But like, what can you really do or say when someone says that to you? Luckily, I haven't, no one like really, really close to me, like in my immediate circle, has been touched, praise God. But yeah, that's what I've experienced thus far.
Mm.
For me, I have a grand aunt. She actually did pass away from COVID-19. This was in the beginning as well of like the pandemic. I think it was around April. So it's been a while now. But yeah, in the beginning, I was surprised. I didn't think I was gonna know anybody that died of COVID. Like I didn't think I was gonna be that close to me, but someone I knew actually did die. And I also know some friends and some people from my church who caught COVID as well, but they're okay now. But yeah.
Mm. Lauren, you have something to share?
Oh, yeah. So, well, like Jake, one of our aunts passed away from the disease, but that's the only person I knew, and none of my friends talked about catching it. None of their family members talked about catching it. So at first, I was a little skeptical about it. I'm pretty sure like everyone else, but once you started to like see the news, see like actual testimonies and things about it, you start to realize, oh, this is like actually serious, and you want to take every precaution you can. But um, personally, I haven't been affected by it, thank God. But um, you know, it's just it is what it is, and it's something that we're gonna have to adapt to, and we have already.
Mm.
Thankfully.
Lauren, I like what you said because I think you touched on something that a lot of us have experienced, maybe from February until now. Essentially, an evolution of how we've seen the virus and how we've treated it in our own personal psyche. I know for me personally, when I first heard about it in February, I was very cavalier about it. If I met someone and I wanted to hug them. I said, "Do you have the virus?" And they'd say, "No, I don't." I say, "I don't have it either. Let's hug." Right. And now, obviously, 6 months later, 8 months later, my entire mindset has shifted. I'm very cautious. I always have a mask. The other day, I was about to go into the pool with a mask. So I'm curious, how have you guys changed your mindset over time about the virus? Has there been a change of mindset? And walk us through that development um, of where you were when you first heard about it and where you are now in terms of your view of how serious the situation is.
I remember when it first started out, I was in school and we were talking about it in health class. And the teacher was like, guys, don't worry about it. It's not gonna come over here. Nothing's gonna happen. You don't need to be so paranoid about it and everything. And even then, my dad sent me to school with a mask, hand sanitizer, gloves, and everything. And when I was like wearing it around school, looking at everyone would just be laughing at me. And now look
Right.
where we are now. But it's a funny story, but like as so I myself have my own underlying health issues. So listening to all these testimonies about COVID, I'm like scared for myself. So like I'm like 10 times more paranoid than everybody else and like
Mhm.
really like taking every precaution I possibly can. But that's just me. I take it 10 times more serious just because of my underlying health issues. And I try to like tell everyone like it's serious, it's not a joke, it's not a hoax, but you know, that's just me. Like I think personally I would have that kind of like mindset with it, but others who probably don't really, aren't like me, they probably wouldn't, and that's understandable.
Mm. Giovanni, let's go to you.
So me personally, I don't like really. My mindset hasn't really changed about it. Like it's been the same from the beginning to now. Like I just don't really have a fear of it. I'm just like living life as I was before, and like everybody's like having these precautions about it, and I understand about it. And I understand why they have their precautions, but to me personally, like I don't really see it. So like I'll wear my mask so other people feel comfortable. I'll wear it so I can protect myself, but at the same time, I just don't really feel any like how to say it, really anything about the virus.
So, Giovanni, walk us through that. Are you saying you don't necessarily feel scared, or are you not concerned about the seriousness? Like, what exactly is it that gives you this sense of peace and calm?
It's just that I understand like that everything is a risk in life. Like going outside, anything can happen. So
Mm.
I could get sick from something else from just being alive, literally. Like just going outside and walking. Like if God forbid, I could walk outside and get hit by a car. Like that's the type of like mindset I have. But like I just have to walk in faith and believe that if I do happen to contract it, it's God's will for me to contract it. That's how I look at it.
Mm. So I see. Take the necessary precautions, but don't allow um, the hysteria to occupy your mind and cause you to stress unnecessarily.
Yes.
Okay, very good. I think that's a good mindset that a lot of us should have, frankly. Jake.
Um, I in the beginning I was chilling, like you said, very cavalier about the whole thing. I even remember like one of my friends had his mask on, and my other friend and I were like chasing him around school trying to hug him. He was like, "No!" It was so funny. But yeah, like we were just really flexing in the beginning. The only thing that I was adamant about was that I saw that other schools were closing. I was like, "Oh, good, let's go!" Like that was my only thing. And I
Right.
wasn't even like, oh, good, let's go because I was afraid for the virus. I was just like, let's cancel school, you know?
Right.
But as you know, I started to see like death rates going up, hearing more about like what the virus was doing, how it was being like how unsure we were about it, and just what science was telling us and stuff. I was like, oh wait, like so I started to do more research, and my understanding grew a lot more. So I would say I'm not in a space where I'm like freaking out all the time, but I am taking the necessary precautions. I am social distancing. I am wearing my mask. I'm making sure I wash my hands. And I mean, that's something we should be doing anyway. I think just being washing our hands more, like not being all up in people's grill if it's not, you know what I mean? And I think this has also like provided us um uh the way to be like more conscious about how we interact with people. Like for example, in New York, they just cleaned the subway after like a billion years, and I feel like they should have been cleaning the subway from jump. So I think this has like taught us, you know what I mean, to just be more conscious in that way.
Jake, I want to hear from you, and then I want to ask a question based off your last comments about the cleanliness and change of actions you made. But Jake, let's hear from you first.
Yeah, so I knew about the pandemic from like December, I think, like
Oh,
in
wow.
China, or saw it on the news and stuff. And I never saw the possibility of it, like even traveling across to another country. And now it's like a global pandemic. When it really hit me that it was actually real was when I went to the airport, and before you even go inside, they check your temperature. They ask you to fill out some forms, like and a whole bunch of stuff. You have to social distance. They was checking your temperature like everywhere you go, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then you have to social distance like everywhere, and that's when I was like, oh, this is a serious thing. So from then, like I took the precautions and like wash my hands, wear my mask, etc. Like, but right now I still take the necessary precautions. I wouldn't say I'm scared of it, but I just do what's necessary to keep myself safe.
Hmm. So, in building off of what Janae was saying, particularly with the example of the New York subway and how that's changed, I'm curious, do you guys envision any change of behavior in society? You can focus on America or maybe even the world, that will happen after the pandemic is said and done. I know people in my corner have said, "Oh, I don't think we're ever going to really hug and shake hands like we used to ever again." I tend not to think that way. I think just given the dynamics, a lot of people are going to very easily revert back to how we used to do things. But I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think there's going to be any lasting behavioral changes or not?
I think so because, well, I don't think we're. I think I agree that we're gonna eventually revert back in terms of like being physical with each other because, I mean, that's how we like express ourselves in a lot of different spheres, like shaking hands, you know what I mean, all that. But I do think we're gonna be. I'm hopeful that we're gonna be more careful. I think we're gonna wash our hands more for sure, and I think we're just not gonna be because we're like very unconscious about like when we like wipe our hands on our noses or like just do like subconscious things. I think we're gonna be a little bit more like we're gonna check our minds quicker than we did prior. Um, but I don't. I I think there is going to be like a resting undercurrent of like fear of being close to people. Because I was talking to my friends and they were like, yeah, like I even feel still weird when I hear someone like clear their throat or like cough. You know, people are like looking to the side and it's strange. So I think that's gonna rest for like a little while. But I can't really say how long I think that's gonna go on. But I think we're gonna eventually, you know, start to get back kind of to where we were.
Awesome.
I feel like we're gonna get back to like handshaking and hugging people. It's on the cleanliness side. I feel like we're gonna like as a society like be more cautious of how cleanly we can be. Like more washing our hands. It'll be more like hand sanitizer everywhere, and yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree with both of them that eventually we will be back to normal, as in going places with each other, like church, school, everything, just sitting with each other. But I feel like the pandemic built some good habits that we could carry on, like washing our hands and I don't know, just keeping that in your mind that another pandemic could come. So just like washing your hands, etc.
Hmm.
I agree with Jake. Like the pandemic definitely has strengthened some of our skills and like being clean, like being mindful of things you touch, like people you talk to, how close you are to people. It's something we should have been doing already, but I'm one of the good sides of the pandemic is that we can like come out of it and kind of learn something new, something we should have been doing before.
Awesome. So, speaking of new ways of doing things, new behaviors, I mean, one of the biggest areas for all of us that have been changed as a result of COVID-19 is the spiritual atmosphere and the church space. I'm sure all of us have participated in a variety of online church programs. And so, in discussing about the church and how COVID has affected that, I first want to know how has your personal experience changed as it relates to church? I know for me, in many ways, I think the COVID-19 has been a blessing because I've been able to participate in so many different programs across the country. Right, in the afternoon, I can be with South Africans on a Zoom line. Some weeks I can be with churches in Connecticut. This week I'm with Allegheny East. So for me, it's definitely kept me engaged in church programs throughout the country. But I want to know how you guys' church experience has been affected, maybe enhanced or maybe worsened as a result of COVID-19 and us doing things on a virtual platform. Giovanni, how about we start with you?
I feel like my spiritual has increased. Like I feel like I'm more closer to God because like I've had more time to reflect and like sit in my thoughts and become closer to Him. To that, as far as church goes, I feel like I've come more closer to like the youth of my church, like the younger people than me, because we're like what is it? We'll do like Bible studies every 2 weeks on Friday nights, and you get to hear which I know, and you get to learn stuff too through that. And then for church, we do like youth church every 2 weeks also. So I get to also hear my peers' talents and a word from which God, someone that's around our age.
I definitely agree that for some, churches, I mean, spirituality is definitely like strengthened. The fact like simple things like church is now easier. All you have to do is wake up on a Sabbath morning, go grab see and send from the TV and watch the stream. Like, I think there's been a lot more participation in church and a lot more kind of like fellowship virtually. There is a downside that, in church, it's usually a loving atmosphere. Everyone is like, hugging, talking to each other, having conversations. We can't do that anymore. So that's kind of a downside. But I definitely think we've gotten more participation just because, church is now easier.
Mm. Well, Lauren, I want to quickly ask you about that easier aspect of it. As much as it might be easier now to participate, do you think that might have an adverse effect where people are a bit more lazy and maybe less willing to put in effort when it comes to trying to participate in church? Or does it create a false expectation where church has to be given to you on a silver platter? Or is that not necessarily something we should be worried about?
I think for some people would want to end up wanting to do more. So I know, like, all I have to do is just get up and watch the stream. Like, sometimes I feel like I want to do more. I want to go outside. I want to go, do some community service things that we used to do while we were in church. But then there's people who are just, because they don't have to do so much anymore, they start to become lazy. So I think it's like both. I think you kind of get the best of both worlds with that.
Mm. Does anyone have a response to that or their own ideas on that dynamic? The double-edged swordness, if you will, of having church online and more accessible?
Yeah, I think that having it online was like a good experience for everyone to experience. We're eventually gonna go back to church, but it was good for all of us to go online. Like for me, I think it was a good step for me because I was able to, do a whole bunch of music with people from church that I normally would not speak to. I get to do this youth panel with all of you guys. I've never met you guys before, but now we get to talk online and talk about the youth and whatever around the conference. Like, it's been a good experience, like meeting new people and stuff. But I obviously prefer like going to church and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the connectivity has been a really big thing. And I think it'll continue even when we do go back to church, like we'll be able to still connect with people across like waters and stuff that we wouldn't be able to beforehand had we not even thought of this type of thing. And I also think um it shifted the way we view church in terms of like church is not just the building, and I think that's really like been put in our face, especially as an Adventist faith, that it's so much more than it's the fellowship. It's um and we can fellowship doesn't just mean being with people. It means like communing in the same spirit, in the same mindset, in worship, even if you're not right next to someone. So it's helped us to realize that like you don't need to be in a a structured building to have a worship experience. And I think that's been a big thing, and it's going to help us grow spiritually and like closer to God in a way that I don't think we would have had this not happened.
Hmm. So I'm curious then, if and when we do move back into the buildings and we assemble some sense of normalcy, what aspects of this online experience would you expect and want to see incorporated into our normal um, way of doing things, right? Do we want to, what kind of programs, what kind of online formats of doing things, what things do we typically do in person that you think work better? Any ideas as it relates to that?
I think the panels like this should be kept going just to hear what people are thinking. Because I mean, we do panels in person, but it's only in one sphere. Like at Oakwood, we have question and answer type things, but it's only people at Oakwood or maybe guests that they would bring in. But having um, panels like this where it's people from all over, even people from France, people from Italy. I'm just naming places, but having being able to just talk to people from across the world. I think that is something I think should definitely continue.
Yeah, I have to agree as well. That's a good question. Like, I think that we should carry like all of this youth panel stuff, like getting all the youth together from, doesn't matter what church you're from, just getting together and, talking about stuff that's going on, and just meeting new people. And I think that was it's a good thing for all of us.
Amen. So looks like we've lost Impilo, so I'm just gonna continue. Give me just a second to, Okay, so I actually wanted to talk about this earlier, right? So those who say that this whole COVID thing is a hoax, and like people who are anti-masks, and what was your initial response to people like that? Were you one of those people, and what is your response now? Has it changed, etc.? Let's start with Lauren.
So for people who are saying this is kind of a hoax and they're anti-mask, at first I just thought it was ignorance, but then I understood, because people around you don't see anyone actually like get it, like, so you're kind of inclined to believe that it's not real. But I think some people have to like literally see it to believe it, but it all just goes into like sympathy, empathy. You have to like care for others, even if you don't want to wear the mask yourself. You have to like kind of, you know, like be thoughtful of others, because there are other people out there who, if they catch the virus, like you don't know if you have it, you don't know if they have it. If they catch the virus, they could literally pass away from it. So you just got to be thoughtful about everyone.
I have in the beginning, when I was reading about the mask, I did not think that they actually gave full protection from COVID. So like I read that when you have surgical mask on, this is just in the beginning, I thought, and when you had surgical mask on, when you take it off, you can risk by getting COVID from the top of the mask, or the COVID could be on your face, and it's not like you can touch your face or whatever, or it can come from your phone. Like I never thought the mask would give full protection in the beginning, but now that I think I realize that it does serve a type of protection from you, like from you coughing and spreading to somebody else, or someone coughing and you catching it. So in the beginning, I thought that there's no point of using it, but now, like not now, but like in the first month, I thought, after like a month or so, I thought there was a useful measure to stop getting COVID.
When they were saying it was a hoax, I was like, I kind of believed it, because it was like it's a way to like do population control, and like at one point it's like started clicking to me. It was like it is like a lot of people on Earth, and like it's like 7+ billion people, and it's like going up every day. And for it to be a way to control the population, that would make sense. But the way how they're doing it wouldn't really make sense. And then it was like it's a money scheme type thing, but like they're trying to move to like being cashless. That's why they're trying to like spread. They're trying to like make it more like, how to say, yeah, paperless way to like move money and stuff. That was like, I was like, it kind of makes sense. It would make sense for it to be like that, to me personally. But for like the anti-mask people, like that's kind of weird, that like you don't want to protect yourself from like a virus that's going around.
Pilo, what was your reaction?
Yeah, I think one of the issues that we just have in this country is we're very partisan, number one, and then number two is there's a lot of distrust in our institutions. There's distrust in media, there's distrust in government, and there's a lot of reasons to have that distrust, because we do see time and time again where government has done sinister things, behind our backs, and 50 years later they declassify, and we see these atrocities that have happened, right? Or we see media blatantly lying on both sides of the aisle. And when you're living in very precarious financial times, and there are so many things that are unsure happening in your life, and you're dealing with institutions that have not been trustworthy in the past, it's very easy to then fall for, let's call it, conspiracy theory. Um, and so I don't blame people who tend to run against the grain of what's being presented to them, because I do think there is reason to have some of those fears. So in order to go through all the noise, I think the best thing that we can do is just listen to the science. Because I think that's one of the few institutions that we have left that are, um, how would we say, objective in nature, right? And are just focusing on telling the truth and teaching us as things are. So my suggestion, particularly as it relates to COVID-19, is just take a look at the science and see what the science is saying. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that are science-based and are very reputable, that have a lot of bite-sized information bits on how to deal with a lot of questions, whether it relates to certain medicines that are being touted or how COVID-19 works or where COVID-19 started. And that's what I do personally when it comes to these things. I try not to get involved in all the noise and the partisan, because you can see it very blatantly that everything is being used as a political game. So I'd rather just look at the straight facts and seeing what is the science saying.
I just have to say that like I think one of the misleading things that a lot of people catch is, for me, when I see Dr. Fauci, I don't know if you guys know who that is, but Dr. Fauci is the leader of the CDC. He doesn't follow the mask protocols, and he's supposed to be the leader showing everyone how to, wear masks and gloves. Like if you watch him, he doesn't really wear masks when he's in front of like judiciary committees and stuff like that. He's not practicing by what he preaches, so people can look at him. He's supposed to be the example that everyone is supposed to look at for like wearing masks and etc. And he's not doing that. Another person like Donald Trump, he's not doing that either. Like a lot of people that you see like in the government aren't practicing those like fundamental things that we're supposed to be doing. And a lot of people in the country are following what they do. And yeah, that's why a lot of people are misled and they're not practicing the right social distancing and mask rules.
I think my initial reaction was similar to all of you guys. And in Pilo, I agree with what you're saying. Like, it kind of makes sense, people's distrust of like what the government's saying, because the government lies all the time. But I think like my initial reaction to the anti-maskers, like once we did realize that like this was a real thing, was just, like how my hand is moving. It was like that. I was like, just let it go. Because like, what am I really supposed to do with that type of mindset? Like, if you're not willing to let anything in, your mind is closed. I can't open it. There's not much I can do about that. So I'm just going to keep it pushing. And the way they were being presented to me was very wild. Like, there was a lot of screaming, a lot of like foul language that they were using. There was just a lot of like this one woman I saw, she was like, I have the right to catch a virus if I want to. I said, what are you doing? So I was just like, you know what? I can't even get into this type of thing. You know what I mean? So that was my initial reaction. And Pilo, I guess you can take it from me now.
Thank you, Jamea. We're just experiencing some really interesting technical difficulties. But this is a great conversation, and I want to thank you all. Now that we have about 12 minutes left, for being very thoughtful and personable in your responses, and I think those in the audience can agree that it's been a really great discussion, and we've learned a lot from all of you. As a result, we actually have quite a few questions from the audience that we want to get to as many as we can in these last 12 minutes. One of the questions that we have from YouTube is actually saying, how do you stay motivated to study and get work done while there's a global pandemic going on? So we did talk a little bit about this earlier, but I guess the crux of this question is, what motivates you to stay engaged when everything seems to be coming to a standstill?
I can already say that when the pandemic started, there wasn't a lot of motivation, because now we're at home, you get to sleep in, you get to do whatever you want. So you're just like kind of like, lackadaisical towards it. But just when you adapt to this kind of new normal, you realize how many things that you've missed, how many things you learn to like appreciate now that you don't have it. And I think with that, you start to kind of do what you can to kind of get your normal back, if that makes sense. Like, I know I want to go back to school. I want to be able to go back to church. So I'm trying to take every precaution that I can so that this pandemic can move faster. And I encourage others to do the same as well. So I think that's where the motivation comes in, where Motivation is just like, I want this back. I want to have like this normal life back. So let me do everything that I can to get it back.
My motivation was that it's not always going to be like this, and that after COVID is done, you have to get back to real life. Like, this isn't how it's going to be forever. So I had to get myself in a mindset that I have to push through it so I could be able to function afterwards.
I think my motivation was and is graduation. Like, I'm just trying to graduate. I'm trying to go and go out into the world and do what I need to do, or just move on from being in college. So that was my motivation in terms of make that money. Yes, indeed. In terms of like just moving on to the next phase of my life, staying motivated. I guess just being structured and like trying to stay organized. That's what keeps me like from not like losing it and like trying to keep it balanced. I think that's what I do.
For me, I'm just motivated to get back to school, like normal life, going to school, classes, labs, etc. Just trying to make sure I do my part so we can like wearing masks and whatever, do my part so we can get back to school as normal as fast as possible.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that, and I like what Jermaine said, particularly just having a goal and sticking to that goal, whether it's graduating or you have a job or something that you're looking forward to, trying to get the bread, whatever it needs to be. And I feel the same way that it's very disappointing that I can't have the quintessential college experience since I'll be at home. But ultimately, I came to school to get a degree and to use that degree to further work on the line. So if I got to focus here at home, well, there's a lot of benefits to being at home, and you just gotta put your head to the grindstone and do what you need to do. Let's see. We have a couple other questions here. Um, this is an interesting one. The question is, what something you appreciated during lockdown that you want to carry with you, and what Bible verses specifically have encouraged you?
What I've appreciated during lockdown, I guess, uh, I've had time to like do some introspection. Like, I've basically been confronted with myself, which I have been in bits and pieces recently over like my late teens into early 20s. But like definitely now everything's just been I'm in my house and I'm in my room. And there's no roommate there. There's no like friends on across the hallway type thing. I mean, there's my family, but that's kind of a different dynamic. So I've been able to like confront myself and really analyze what's going on in my mind, in my heart, and stuff like that. And it's been intense because it's just that's all it is. But at the same time, it's been really good to grow, and I think I'll be able to take that once we move into like the newness of everything and how things are going to change. So yeah. Anyone else? If not, I want to ask another question. Go ahead, Lauren.
Oh, I'd say, for the verse part, they asked for a verse, like off the top of my head, I'm thinking Psalms 56, verse 3, when I'm afraid, I put my trust in you. So during this pandemic, I think trust is a big thing with God. You have to trust in Him that He'll, protect you, even though things aren't always looking so, 100% like awesome, everything that you want, you still got to trust in God. You still got to believe that He'll carry you through whatever you're going through.
A Bible verse I used was John 16, verse 33. These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace, in the world you will have tribulations. But be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. So that's helped me get through it.
Amen. Jake?
Okay. Oh.
Me personally, I don't have a verse that comes off the top of my head, but I've been praying and asking for God to, guide me through this pandemic. So yeah.
Yeah, I know one of my favorite verses. It's in Psalms, and I believe I actually forgot the psalm, but it's a very familiar passage of scripture where God says that though 1,000 fall by your right hand and though 1,000 fall by your left, that He's essentially going to lift you up and uphold you so that nothing will come against you. And there's another verse that says, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper."
Yes, sir.
So I take the same mentality as Giovanni says that, every day is just a step in faith, right? There are so many problems around us that try to assail us and destroy us, but if we just walk in faith and know that God is with us, we'll be able to make um, every day the best that we can.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
Oh, that's you.
just a fun one that someone had put on the YouTube and coming from YouTube that I thought might be interesting. How has dating changed now that we can't necessarily be in close quarters with another? Has that put you out for the count when it comes to dating over these past few months, or have you still tried to work your magic around it?
Me personally, I've tried to work around it. It's just a simple thing of making sure that you're both safe and you just talk. That's all you can do, really.
Yeah, I can agree.
I think that I think that the dating world has been confronted with um, we have to just get to know somebody purely based on what they're saying to you, which is interesting because we do a lot of looking at people and going from what people look like. I mean, we only see from eyes up now, so I guess you can look at what they're wearing or whatever. But I think, and we're not really meeting up with people as much. You know what I mean? So we're texting people more, we're calling people more. So we're getting to know people in that more intimate way, I think. So I think that has been, added a little spice or interest to the dating scene. That's where yeah.
And
Well,
Jermaine, go ahead, Lauren.
I'm 15, so I don't really have an opinion on this.
So she says.
But I do agree that it's probably going to be more interesting with all of this going on.
Yeah, I think that dating's gonna get back to normal soon. Like everyone's gonna be going on dates like normal. So I think it's gonna look going forward. But yeah.
And honestly, people are still going out nonetheless. Like a couple of my friends are going out on dates still. Like Tinder's still popping. Like things are still happening. So you know.
Yeah, no, I can agree. I've definitely found myself being very close to breaking a lot of social distancing rules when it comes to this stuff. Um, but there's been a lot of FaceTime chats, and that's pretty much where it ends. So, yeah. But anyways, um, I think that pretty much ends our time. I just want to thank you all so much for just a great discussion. I wish we had another hour because it's been great, but unfortunately, we don't have the time for that. Maybe we'll have to do a second coronavirus discussion. But we want to thank each and every one of you for giving honest answers, for giving very thoughtful answers, and we hope that we can do this again very time soon. Those in the audience, we thank you for your participation and for listening. And for those who will be seeing this after it's published to YouTube, we hope that you will enjoy it as well and that you've been blessed. We're now going to invite Pastor Graham and Miss Hewitt to close us out as we finish this session.
This is awesome. Now the conversation was just getting good. I want to hear all about this dating, and I like how everyone said, "Yeah, other people are." We want to know what you guys are doing about this dating stuff. But no, great discussion, guys. We really enjoyed listening in and hearing your perspectives on different things. What do you think, Pastor Graham? Do you think we need to have a discussion just on dating? Maybe that can be the next discussion. What do you think?
Well, I gotta apologize to the guys because they know we were producing in the back, and it was my fault why I was sending them stuff and had them laughing. But I'm going to tell you the truth. You guys are great. You guys are really great. And it was just, you got to look at your faces when you got to the dating one. It's just, you guys is but great. People understand better now. Even I understand better now your thought process. It's way different. This is the way youth are thinking. Is the way your guys' mentality is going. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just different, and it's a good way for people to get an understanding of your thought process. Sorry, Lauren. Sorry about that, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you. And I know we're wrapping up, but there was one question from YouTube that I wanted to ask you all in the presence of our youth director, because this is something I know he wants to know. And the question from YouTube was, what can the church do right now? What can the local church, the conference do to support young people during this time of COVID? What do you need from us to kind of stay connected? Or do you need anything? Do you need anything from the church right now? Are you cool? But what can your local church or the conference do for you as young people during this time? Anything that they can take notes on?
I would say provide more platforms like this for the youth to speak.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
All right.
And I would say, I mean, for the most part, I'm cool, but I would agree with Giovanni and just say to actually like tune in and listen to what we're saying and then respond accordingly.
And respond.
Mm.
Listen to it, but
even if it means just like validating what we're saying and being like, I understand where you're at. I see that this is a real thing for you, and not just like discrediting what we're saying.
Do you want to hear more from like communication? Do you want to hear more, or do you want to hear from the local? I think with that question, is it a local thing, or you wouldn't mind jumping in from a conference level or for an area level?
Is that for me or for everybody?
Anybody, you know, like for example, you said you go to church in Delaware. You want to hear from Delaware people, or you just want to hear from Delaware from your church? You want to hear from what somebody in New Jersey is thinking? You want to know what somebody in Paris is thinking?
I want to know what everybody's thinking, to be honest with you. I think my local church is like pretty responsive to like the youth, especially like they're really like inclusive people.
Right.
So I think my local church is doing well, but I want to hear what everybody's thinking, because you know, we're pretty much all thinking the same thing. I think we just want to like know it, you know.
Got it.
Right.
Very good.
Validate each other. Anyone else? We want to give everyone an opportunity to answer this one because it's so important. You know, I know we love young people. I mean, I just accepted the fact that I'm no longer considered a young person. So I always have my ear into what can we do to make sure we're not forgetting you guys or leaving you behind, or encouraging you in the faith, because there's so much out there. You know, you can get caught up in school and suddenly church fades away. We want to know what we can do to keep you guys here. You know, any ideas? And Pilo, what are you going to say?
I mean, one of the things that I've just been noticing, particularly as we transition from teenager to adolescence to young adult, is youth have a lot of opinions, not just on programs that can benefit them, but just on the church in general and the culture of the church and what the church at large can be doing to better the work of Christ. So I think just more opportunities, as Giovanni said, for youth to express how they're feeling about church affairs. I know a lesson that I've learned from a very young age is that board meetings, business meetings are not always the most friendly environment for those conversations to happen. And I know me, I've been baptized since 12, but I very rarely attended a lot of those sessions. And the one time I did, not the best experience. All that to say, we need to just find more avenues and better avenues for youth to express just their sense of the condition of the church and where they think the church needs to be going, where it's lacking, and things that it's doing well. So we have a better in sync vision, really what it comes down to.
I'd like to ask a question. During the conversation, I'm not sure who said it, but we were talking about mistrust or distrust in the government, and there was another one. There was two that you named, but you didn't say the
Media.
media. That's right. You didn't say the church. I guess my question to you all would be: is there a mistrust in the church also, somewhere along the line? If it's not, then you don't have to say it. Is there something? Is there mistrust somewhere there?
For me, it's not mistrust in the church as an institution, because ultimately everything that we believe in, we espouse is founded in the Bible, right? And so
Right.
if I want to have a better understanding of that, I personally need to go to the Bible and study for myself, or read the Ellen White or whatever it needs to be. um, I think the challenge becomes when church culture seems to not be in line or in sync with what the Bible is saying. And I think that's where the issue is, when there's hypocrisy and controversy between what we're espousing and what we're actually doing. And that's where it's not so much distrust, but because ultimately my trust is in God, not in any building, not in any organization. But this is my church family, this is my church community. And so my concern is, how can my faith community be more in line with Christ so that I, by interacting with them, can get closer to Christ?
Awesome. Director, I just want to ask them one more question. I got
Sure.
word just this week, to be perfectly honest with you, I got word this week that you guys ain't even hanging on Facebook anymore. Now that look at it, look at it, look at it now, right? No, because we started to push a lot of our ideas and a lot of stuff on Facebook. And then the word I got was, we ain't really on Facebook anymore. We over here. We at TikTok. We on Instagram. We're here, there, and whatever. So I need to get I need to get an understanding from you. When we do these panel discussions, I know we kind of push on Facebook and YouTube. Where's the greatest social media aspect that we could use that could reach not only you, your friends, but also outside boundaries to the other end of the world? What do you think is the best that we can look at right now, that we could use right now?
I'd say
Thank
the
you.
best platform is Instagram, because I feel like there's like more than a million, like more billion follow. I mean, people using that, young people using that all across the world. So I think that's the best platform, or Instagram or Twitter. I think those are two good platforms.
Hey, awesome. 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 Guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You guys were great. You guys were great tonight. And I just think that people are going to hear from you. They're going to get a better understanding of the way that you think. And hearing all of you, if Jesus don't come back within the next 50 years, I just believe that the church is safe with young people like you.
Amen. I second that. And thank you all for being so willing to be our featured youth panelists for this month. And because of the success, what you've shown us how this can be, this is something I know that the youth department is going to pick up and continue to do going forward. And we thank you guys for showing us how successful it can be. And we do have one more week where we're featuring our young people, and this will be our Youth Shine. That's next weekend. We're featuring some of the artists ages 13 to 21. I just want to put that up real quick so everyone can see. These are some of the people, young people that we will feature. You may recognize some of the faces. We have vocalists, we have artists, painters, musicians that we're going to be featuring, and we have a nice lineup for next week. So join us again live at 3:00. We definitely want to give our young people a chance to shine. Anything else, Jake or Lauren? You want to say anything else about the spotlight? We'll be spotlighting you all as well as Jamae. Jamae is a wonderful artist, right, Jamae? So we're going to get to see some of her work. And Jake and Lauren are musicians, playing multiple instruments, right? So we'll also get to see some of their talents as well as other young people from around Allegheny East. So we'll be back again next week at 3 o'clock. But we just once again thank our panel. We appreciate the discussion and the dialogue. We wish you all the best in everything that you're doing. And we're so glad that you chose to be a part of this wonderful panel. Any final words from anyone before we go? All right. Well, God bless you all, and we'll see you again next week. Bye, everyone. Let's wave to our audience. Thanks for tuning in.